I heard that David Johnson was the Whistler Award winner, I was thrilled because I know of the long personal association and relationship David has had with the Whistler family. Phil Whistler, Chuck's son, has been one of David's best friends forever. He's known Chuck personally. My husband also worked for Chuck Whistler when it was Baker and Daniels, so I knew Chuck, my husband knew Chuck, David did, and what a wonderful person and role model I think he's been for David. And I know David, because of that personal relationship, this award has a very special personal meaning to him.
David's a preacher's kid. Many people don't know that also. But that was part of his public service. He was a practicing attorney, and I understand was a pretty good attorney at Baker and Daniels. But David was also involved in public service. Sort of his mission, his ministry was public service.
You know, I've seen David, I've seen his resume, and I'm just kind of, so impressed by it, right? I mean, here's somebody that went to Harvard Law and went to Oxford, so he's an extraordinarily well-educated person, who, by the way, doesn't necessarily show you that, right? It's not like, hey, by the way, I happen to have this degree. He's somebody that, just because of his natural, modest approach to leadership and connecting with people, you recognize the education and the talent that he has.
As a visionary, David has enough experience in different sectors of the community to kind of understand not only how they fit together, but what kind of things would make the most difference in benefiting the citizens of the state. He's able to think about and understand problems that emerge from the public sector, from the private sector, to connect the two. It's remarkable, actually. He's probably the best I've ever seen.
I think when we talk about leadership, and sometimes particularly community-oriented leaderships, and the general perception is this very outspoken, very charismatic leader. Of course, David is that way, but in his own very thoughtful and almost a quiet approach.
One of the things that I really appreciate about David is he's involved in so much, and I never know whether it's because of his role as the CEO of CICP or if it's because of his leadership in the community. But all those things come together, and so David is just someone who always has a pulse on what's happening in the business community, in the civic community, in the philanthropic community, and in the public sector.
I just think of him as this amazing combination of maybe great one-to-one and personally, but always thinking about these bigger ideas. And so he plants so many wonderful seeds with me, and I just love talking to him. I always feel like I come away a better person after talking with him.
The NCAA had committed to move to Indianapolis in, I think, 96 or 97. But then it gets to the point, like dog chasing a car. Now we've caught it. What do we do? So I became executive director at the White River State Park, working with David. We were going back and forth to Overland Park, Kansas to get ready. So David was sort of, if not the glue, he was sort of weaving this project together.
David Johnson was a key volunteer at BioCrossroads. And when you're a lawyer and you're getting paid by the hour, when you take time off for some of these very significant opportunities that David led, I mean, this is a real contribution to the community. So I think one of the key areas for the eventual success of BioCrossroads was the fact that David was an informal advisor to Governor O'Bannon. And because of that trust level and the experience they had, we were able to unlock some of the pension fund investments in our first life sciences venture fund.
So he's put together years and years of thinking about how to improve the state, which is his general proposition, like how do I make the place that I live and love better? And he's put together all these ideas from all these different sectors and begin to create a vision of the state where everybody benefits. And I think that's why CICP has become such an amazing organization.
I always think David has a servant's heart, so through CICP he's actually initiated a lot of studies to think about how do we make this a better community, and whether that's engaging the Brookings organization to think about what living wages are, his service on the Urban League board, where he's really thinking about diversity, equity, and inclusion issues, about how do we bring up our entire community. He also sits on the 16 Tech Community Board, which is really not about 16 Tech, it's about the neighborhood around that and how do they share in the improvements that are being brought about by 16 Tech.
One of the things that I really appreciate about David is oftentimes he's working on long-term projects for our community, and his work with 16 Tech is certainly an example of that. So while 16 Tech has many who have contributed to the vision over time, including multiple mayoral administrations, it's really David's steady leadership, and it's his recognition in about 2015 that without an organization that was devoted to oversight of the Innovation District, it wouldn't happen.
16 Tech, there's a great example of a vision that David had. And we're part of that now. We have some space down there. But the idea, again, of having this space right there in the center of the city that would bring together people from different sectors to support technology, the sciences, innovation, that's a visionary move. And so he was very helpful to us in terms of inviting us in, explaining how that might work, and us wanting to be at the table. It was a strong vision and something that many cities have, and he brought those people together.
Oftentimes the type of work from a community building standpoint, it's long-term, it's in the trenches, it's not, the near-term results is not visible. So how do you have enough conviction, but also not only for yourself and your team, but the stakeholders that you're working with to make sure we follow through, and that's what I've seen him doing, particularly through the Bio-Crossroads strategy, because they're very capital intensive, but they were able to put up programming and visionary strategic initiatives like the 16 Tech, like the IBRI, that would generate meaningful impact for decades to come.
You know, I think one thing that people don't know about David is that he's written a book, and his father died kind of suddenly. His father was a Presbyterian minister. And so when David left to go to college, he and his father had a lot of correspondence about religion and faith. And after David's dad passed away, he compiled those in a book, which is, you know, pretty amazing. He's got kind of that aspect to him as well.